During any emergency operation, life safety is always the first priority. One of the areas where our personnel and equipment are threatened on a daily basis is while operating on roadways where vehicular traffic is present. That's why the public safety agencies in Cobb County have adopted the Public Safety Roadway Operations Guideline. It's our goal to promote the safe practices detailed in this guideline so that we can minimize the risks our personnel are exposed to while working on roadways. This video is designed to highlight and complement the guideline, but it's each employee's responsibility to read and be familiar with it.
As an emergency responder, you need to recognize the high level of risk you're exposed to in working at the scene of a roadway incident or any location where vehicular traffic is present. You also need to understand that even though there is no absolute protection for emergency responders, you can operate within a protected environment by following these three guiding principles. Provide traffic control, leave space, and be seen. Now let's take a closer look at each one of these. Temporary traffic control, or TTC, is accomplished by using devices such as cones or flares. These devices are used to alert drivers of the incident and guide them around or past the incident scene. Giving the motorist a well-defined path helps to protect everyone working at the incident. By using traffic control devices properly, we can create a protective space between the incident responders and the moving traffic. This is accomplished by making sure the traffic incident management area is long enough and wide enough to provide a buffer and yet still allowed for movement of traffic. Being seen by other drivers as they pass the incident is critical to your safety. All personnel working on the scene should wear a high visibility safety vest. Be safe, be seen. Traffic control, leaving space, and being seen are the three traffic safety principles in the guideline, but there are other safety precautions you need to keep in mind as well. Always look before you open the door, look before you get out of your vehicle, and when possible, exit from the shadow side of your vehicle. And never assume that approaching traffic sees you, so avoid turning your back on it. Of course, you should always wear your appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, for your job, and be very cautious when you retrieve or replace equipment on the upstream side of the vehicle. And finally, you want to limit exposure and time at the scene. You've got to have enough personnel and equipment at the scene to get the job done, but try to keep it to a necessary minimum. And consider leaving the scene or releasing other units as soon as possible. Remember, the longer you're on the scene, the greater the risk. The first emergency response vehicle to arrive at scene should give an on-scene report to 911, providing information such as the nature of injuries, entrapment, fire, spills, roadway hazards, or the need for other resources. Next, a size-up should be conducted by command, and any further information or needs passed on to 911. And always keep in mind the incident priorities. First, life safety. Second, incident stabilization. And third, property conservation. Scenes involving fires, rescue, or hazardous materials will be controlled by the fire department. Law enforcement will control scenes that involve accidents or incidents that have no injuries. Georgia DOT will assume control of the clearance of the scene. Unified command should be established as soon as possible to meet the needs of each agency and to ensure the safety of all responders. We've addressed the three general traffic safety principles. We've talked about some specific safety precautions, and we reviewed the necessary actions of the first arriving unit. Now let's talk about vehicle placement and blocking. Good vehicle placement will help to secure the scene for life safety and incident stabilization. The first arriving unit should be positioned to protect the scene using a blocking action. Blocking provides an area of protection called the shadow area and is downstream of the flow of traffic. Larger vehicles like fire engines provide the best block and should be used as soon as possible. A vehicle can be used to block to the right or block to the left. It all depends on which direction will provide the most protection to personnel working at the scene. In either case, the front wheels of the blocked vehicle should be turned away from the work area so that if the blocked vehicle is struck from behind, it will be pushed away from the work area and not towards it. Here are a few other key points to remember about blocking vehicles. Block the most critical or highest traffic volume lane first, and if possible, block the lane that is already obstructed by the incident. Consider the upstream side of the blocking vehicle as a no stand zone. And finally, when you're using your vehicle to block, exit quickly when it's safe to do so and move to the shadow area. When used properly, traffic cones and flares create a tapering effect that directs traffic to open lanes and diverts traffic away from the incident. The end of the taper should be at least 100 feet from the first blocked vehicle, with the cones or flares being spaced apart a distance equal to the speed limit in feet. So, if the speed limit is 55, the cones or flares should be no more than 55 feet apart. A couple of things to keep in mind when using these devices. Flares and fuel spills don't mix, so always check for spills before laying out flares, and remember that the area defined by the cones or flares is not a safe haven or shadow area. They are, after all, just visual indicators for the motorist, and if you're standing in that area, you are still in harm's way. Another essential tool in dealing with a roadway incident is lighting. But lights can be a distraction or even a hazard to oncoming traffic. So when possible, turn off forward-facing emergency lights and headlights and use only as many emergency lights as necessary to give adequate warning to motorists. As is the case with any emergency scene, a safety officer may be assigned at the discretion of the incident commander. The safety officer's duties may include ensuring PPE and reflective vests are being worn, coordinating the use of emergency warning lights, limiting personnel's time spent in high-hazard areas, and coordinating traffic control and blocking vehicles with other agencies. It's important that all emergency response personnel remember there is no absolute protection at the scene of a roadway incident. But by applying the general traffic safety principles and the emergency response procedures outlined in the Roadway Operations Guideline will go a long way for making the scene safe for us and the public. So remember, provide traffic control, leave space, and be seen.